I'm about to share a video with you that I had originally written in the form of a written blog a few years ago. And what happened is I ended up going ahead and recording it as I used it as my notes and read along with it just so I can share this story. This is definitely a true story. It is one of my many testimonies. I would say it's one of my biggest testimonies to date. And it is something that I have been struggling with, trying to find the way to share it over the last few years. I recently came across this video again and figured this was probably the best way. Well, it was the best way for me to be able to share this publicly on this platform. I do want to give the advance warning that this deals with domestic violence and other, I don't know, maybe other issues or things that may be triggering to people that have gone through those situations. And it is in no way, shape, or form to tell you what you should do. I do highly advocate for you to find your way to assist you if you are in a environment that is unhealthy for you and unsafe. I don't condone doing any of the things or trying to take any of the measures that I took. Everyone's situation is going to be different. I don't know. Just to try to keep this intro a little bit short. Thank you for watching, and let's talk about it. Okay. What's going on? I don't know if I'm in the proper direction of the sun and all of that good stuff right now, but I felt like, okay, I came, parked just to sit and chill for a little bit, and figured this might be a good time to add in the other episode of Mixed Nuts. This one is it's called Too Much Kool-Aid. This one, the tone is like a little bit differently. I am in no way, shape, or form ever going to be ashamed of anything that has ever occurred in my life, whether like I intended for it to happen or not. I don't know. Like some things we just don't have control over it, and other things like we kind of fight through life a little bit differently than the average person would. But that's why it's our story to tell, not for anybody else's, just to prevent any type of confusion, right? So with this one, it'll be pretty much the same, where I am going to read it because I don't want to miss anything or leave any. Yeah, just read it, okay? So this one, we call him Leon. Let's see. Hello, beautiful. The first words that he had ever spoken to me. I originally met Leon through the milkman as we were looking into getting matching tattoos. Me and the milkman were, right? The milkman made me keep Leon's number in my possession. Leon had contacted me and left a voicemail to let us know that he was in Vegas and that he would be around if we still wanted him to do some work. Via text, I let him know that I was no longer with the milkman, but I was curious about getting a tattoo one day. Leon called again. Hello, beautiful. And it was a wrap. There was something about hearing him say that. I don't know. We spoke for a few minutes as I had informed him that I was on my way to my second job at that time. He stated that he was interested in seeing me face to face. He remembered me being tall and wanted his memory refreshed of me completely, so he said. I went to work and I told my coworker, who's a guy friend of mine, I met this guy, Leon. I've been talking to him, and I had explained everything to him of what was going on. And from that day on, my friend had referred to Leon as Kool-Aid because of the way that I would smile when I spoke about him without even realizing it. This night after work, I agreed to come through and see him. He was staying in his duplex that was over on the west side of a lettered street. It was dark. I got off work at 11 p.m., so you could only imagine around the time that I made it over to see him. This was a big deal because he said that that's one of his first and best memories of me upon meeting me. Well, meeting me, I guess you could say, on my own and without my boyfriend at the time. I went to the west side after midnight and in an area highly populated by dope fiends, and I didn't complain. I told him, unfortunately, that I was familiar with the territory, and that kept him curious and made him more intrigued in getting to know who I was. He came to meet me at my car. I honestly didn't remember him looking the way that he did on this night in particular. Maybe it was my hormones. But my hormones were raging that night if they were. He did throw in that wonderful physical description. He was about 6'5", 6'6". He had a very nice muscular build, and then he had these lips that I just couldn't stop looking at. I don't know. And it's like every word that came out of his mouth, my attention was caught. He had me. Um, he was wearing some jeans, a flannel long sleeve shirt, and a beanie on this night. I noticed how he had a few tattoos that were peeking out from the neck of his shirt. And when he would move, like you could see a little bit of the print. The tat on his neck soaked up all of my energy at this point. We did a little chit-chatting, and I can remember him saying that he refused to invite me inside out of fear of what he may do to me. To me, that only sounded like a good time. And he had so much that I was really intended on exploring when given the opportunity. Instead of voicing my thoughts out loud, I figured it would be best to get ready to head home since I had work early the next morning anyway. He reached to give me a hug, but of course that turned into kissing. We just kept kissing and kissing. I vividly recalled how his hands didn't tend to explore far, but it only made me like him more. I knew that this was an experience that I needed to find out about again. We began talking on the regular via phone and text in the next few weeks. Then we decided to go hang out, as he said he hadn't been in Vegas for long and wanted to go on the strip. We parked, walked, and talked. He and I could talk about current events, politics, religion, cartoons, philosophy, the stars, family, friends, you name it. We talked about everything under the sun, and that definitely was how he got me. You come to me with good, intriguing conversation, and I don't know, you've opened up some cans of worms. I don't know. I just love conversation. I love intellectual conversations. We'll put it like that. A secret about me, a man that digs into my mental is like discovering a diamond. He asked if I drank coffee and purchased this coffee from Starbucks. He had this sense of pride in his eyes when he dug into his pocket to grab out a stack of cash while asking how did I like my coffee. We sat to talk and drink. We spoke about spontaneity and living in the moment, and I felt slightly empty because I didn't really feel that I had done anything up to that moment that was spontaneous. But in the back of my mind, I knew that I was ready to change that at any given second. I told him that I could be spontaneous. I was slightly lying. I was trying to show out, and then he asked me to show him how could I be spontaneous. So I decided to have him follow me into the restroom at the Mirage Hotel and Casino on the Las Vegas Strip. This was around 5 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. No, it was on a Sunday. It was definitely on a Sunday. Our first time was a quickie, but it was a good one in the Mirage bathroom. It had to have been my deliriousness at the time that allowed me to carry through with it all the way, but it was excitement that I was missing. Leon and I had fun together, and it was always random. I didn't care. Out of everything that I had experienced prior to him, excitement and thrill seemed to have been what was missing. There were many moments that I could go on forever about with Leon. We created a lot of memories because we did spend a lot of time together. A lot more time together than I had ever spent with anyone collectively. Um, but not everything was beautiful, nor was it necessarily legal. For the longest period of my Mixed Nuts series, I have had a hard time of trying to put the words together about Leon and my relationship. When I wrote this, I had a hard time putting it together. He and I were a book of fantasy, love, mysteries, and turmoil wrapped into one. This was the first man that I fell, I don't like saying fall in love, but this was the first man that I gave my complete self to, and I wrapped and lost myself in love with him. Um, I loved him more than I probably should have. I don't know. Like that, I feel like it takes more detail to go into, but I did. I did. We loved each other more than we were prepared to accept. And it was just something that I had to remember that all beautiful things have blemishes. But however, a lot of these blemishes were a lot more than what just seemed on the surface. There was no doubt that Leon was being unfaithful. By this time, when my butterflies began to fade, we were already living together. He spent a lot of his time away even when he was home in Vegas, but he'd be back and forth between here and another state for a variety of reasons. Some reasons that we couldn't control, but there were reasons also that we could control. But he really had no business being here. I knew he didn't have any business being here, but I kept trying to force it, and I take my blame. I take my part of blame. Let's see. He spent a lot of time away, and when he was home, I had a hard time wanting him in the same bed as me. Sometimes I didn't even want him in the same room as me, especially because of all of the stuff that I knew. He knew I knew. There was no secret. At least allow me one intimate place where I was the only woman to have been touched. That was my bed. When I started to catch on and actually develop the strength to separate myself from him, our relationship became more of a battle. We were at war with each other, and at first I didn't even know it. A battle that I refused to lose, yet neither of us realized the intensity of the danger that we were causing for ourselves and to each other. The first time that I delivered the news about us needing to part ways, I was thrown like a rag doll on the hood of my car as he strangled me. The only way that I was able to come up out of that was being able to kiss him in return when he told me that I was his forever. I was forever his, or his exact words. Part of me romanticized his eagerness to possess me, but another part of me realized that this battle was now going into an all-out war. He then let go of my throat, and I gasped for air. Broad daylight, while other people walked by, just watching. Could you imagine how that feels? Not assisting at all, no words were spoken to me, nothing. I noticed that this war was going to be fought alone. I sought refuge in a potential client of his, has a chapter in this series as well. I believe I will touch on it. I never told him anything that was going on or what had occurred, but he kept my mind focused on positive things. And the attention that he was giving me, he said that he could tell that I was unhappy in my relationship, but wasn't sure how he could convince me that I needed to allow him to be in Leon's spot. Time passed. Leon tried being more of what I needed. I will give him that credit. Another woman, though. Another lie. Another reason for me to leave. The timing of this incident, the other girl was in the backseat of my car. I told you, something out of a book, right? The left side of my jaw was busted completely open this night. She saw everything. And then I could tell from like the terror in her face and in her voice that she wasn't expecting that. So I still had that scar to this day. Um, the whole nother story, but basically just touching up on in regards to the scars that I do carry. There was this woman I had met that had this organization that I had spoke for her in, and the catch or the slogan that she had would basically was, I show others my scars so that they know that they could heal. And that in itself has touched me in so many ways, as well as like I'm not ashamed of my scars. My scars do nothing but tell stories, and whenever somebody is ready to hear those stories, we can talk. I'll ask her questions. They can say whatever they want to say, and I'll be glad to share that with them. Um, this injury in particular, though, it had resulted in having me go to the emergency room where I was only transferred into the trauma unit at the hospital in which I now work. Go figure. So there's a story behind that as well. One day I'll touch on it. I had to have my jaw sewn shut. The physician at the time probably scared me more than my actual injury did because I had never looked in the mirror to see what damage had been done. I didn't know. No one showed me, no one explained anything to me. All I could go by were the looks on everybody's faces and their reactions. And this surgeon at the time, the look on his face and his words while he was working on me, it started becoming more clearly etched in my memory as months and years went by. I guess that's where that PTSD had came in. Um, the doctor basically said, I can see through your mouth. When all was done, Leon found a way to get into the room. He laid in the bed next to me and cried. Still don't know how that happened either. He ended I remember them trying to keep him out of that room. It actually wasn't just like a single room. It's an open area with like that's curtained off and stuff. Um, but he found his way back there, and somehow, some way, he was able to nestle up next to me in the bed. The rest of the night of that night basically is a blur. Just the same as the rest of the next day. It was a few more days that are all blurs. When I returned to work, my coworkers knew of my injuries being caused by a car wreck. In which I'm still not sure how that explanation was even accepted. I was eating and drinking liquids and yogurts. The pain medication was my escape from all of my reality, and my driving privileges were taken away due to the intensity of the medications that I was on. Again, I had to come up with a plan to get out of this, but I had to do it without losing my life. There were so many more incidents of infidelity, and the lies began to just become entertaining to me. Got to the point where I was no longer sad. It couldn't sadden me. Like, I didn't even want to be in that shit, you know? I was sitting up here in the back of my mind trying to plan a way to get out. Um, and just at least so that we can both walk away. But the way that things started to increasingly get worse, and like I can say, I don't know, it felt like it got worse before it got better. And I had to just, I don't know, I just prayed. I can't tell you that I've ever prayed harder in my life than I prayed during that time in my life. Um, refused to be sexually intimate with him. I couldn't. I just couldn't. I didn't want to give myself to him. I didn't want to give myself to anyone for a long time. It was definitely over. I want to say it was almost 2 years that I did not have sex. He would try, and every time he'd try to have sex with me, when I would turn him down, he'd turn around and just be like, oh, I know you're having sex with so and so. You sleeping with so and so. Like, he tried to pinpoint me sleeping with his homeboys and all types of other things just because I just couldn't do it. I didn't want anybody touching me. Um when your mind when your mind and entire internal self is so numb to your hell on earth, the time that passes by feels as if it's just standing still subconsciously. There were a lot of chapters in between. One of the event there was a situation that had occurred that basically ended up putting him in jail. And then I did continue to press, charges and state what I needed to express, kept my truth, follow what I was supposed to do because I wasn't going to be somebody that was going to be made an example of. I knew that for sure. I wasn't going to be somebody that was going to just become a statistic and somebody turn around and think that I was weak in any way, shape, or form. I will admit, while he was locked up in jail during the time of the law trying to figure out what they wanted to do, he and I were in communication through letter. Well, he wrote me a lot before, and it took a while for me to even write back. I had like a whole QB full of letters before I had even decided to answer back. But I realized that the law was not on my side. The law was expecting me to drop out and do a whole host of other things that I really didn't need to do. So therefore I took actions into my own hands and I engaged in communication with him. When I engaged in communication with him, we both were able to express some things that we both needed to express. I felt like a lot of it was overdue, and I did feel at peace from a letter in particular that he had sent. And by the time I had showed up for one of the court dates, he was the one that actually had asked to change his plea to guilty. And he then had apologized to me in a courtroom in front of these other people that we didn't even know, and as well as with this judge that had received a letter that I had wrote out in explanation of everything that had happened that day in particular. So the judge was kind of floored for him to actually be forthright and speaking up about it. So what ended up happening is he got sentenced to 2 years in prison. And long story short, we did engage in communication. It was not on any trying to get back together or rekindle our relationship. What we were trying to do was to face our truths as humans. I myself as a woman, he as a man, and basically come together in a cordial manner that we could possible. With this, I will tell you that taught me the greatest gift of forgiveness and love. Love doesn't always have to come in the form of husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend. Like love, you have to have self-love. You have to have a love and appreciation for other people as human beings. Like love comes in so many different forms, and a lot of us will use and abuse that word and not really understand the intensity of it. Love is not just simply something beautiful. Love can be ugly, but with love, you accept it for what it is and everything that builds it, I guess you could say. Everything that constructs this act, this word, this being of existence, everything that is built upon love, you accept it and you love it harder. Basically, I don't know. Love is undefined. I learned a lot about it. I learned a lot about myself. I am forever grateful for all of those lessons that I got during that time, even though they were hard. It was hard. It was a very hard time in my life. And if I had ever felt alone, I had never felt alone like I did then. And that part of it I don't want to go through again, but I'm grateful for it, the experience, because it definitely built your girl up in a way that I cannot describe. We maintained contact during that time that he was in prison. And we actually, I don't know, you could say we developed a even stronger friendship than we had originally. With the relationship that Leon and I had, we were friends first before anything else. And that is one thing that I will forever be grateful for with him. But yeah, so we were able to elaborate on the friendship, focus on the friendship, and that's where we were. I don't ever like when stories, sometimes you like when stories come to an end, but this one in particular, I did not like. I still don't necessarily like, but I don't have control over what happens. I don't have control over other people's actions. I don't have control over anything in the universe. Like, universe and God is greater than me, greater than you and I. Our friendship continued, and he ended up moving back out of state. He got into this other relationship, and I had met her. I actually knew about her before they even got together. Like I said, one thing that he and I did have in between each other was we were able to talk whenever we could. It doesn't make sense to anybody. It doesn't need to make sense to anybody but he and I. To this very day, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody but he and I. But he basically I had received a call that he had got killed a few years ago. And this was also in the prime of us being friends. Outside of everything that had happened, he was trying to get himself together to walk down a different path and just be a little bit more legit with everything that he was doing. And it was sad. It was very sad and unfortunate. I totally give him love and light, and his family, I send them love and light to this very day. Like, I don't think you could ever expect somebody to get over something like that. Especially all of the questions and stuff surrounding it. But basically, to know that he and I had peace between each other, that's all I could ever ask for. And there's no bad blood. There never really was any bad blood. But I wish him the best in his soul at peace. But that is the end of Too Much Kool-Aid. So thank you for watching. If you click on subscribe, you will be notified of any new uploads or any new videos or material that comes in. So until next time, take care.
Me on your good side, baby, what's your angle? Know it's just a good time, tell me what's your table. Numbers on the net again, you'll be going lap them. In the set, one set, high tap dance, been about the bands. Backstage, meet the band. Press pass, head on my chest, I ain't never messing, I'm never messing.